mythical creatures from ancient myths in real finds. The world that we are used to considering studied to the last centimeter actually hides something frightening under layers of dust and time. We look at the screens of our devices and believe that modern science has given us answers to all questions about the origin of life and the history of our planet. However, as soon as we look into the archives that have been covered with mold for decades in closed storage facilities, the familiar picture of reality begins to crack at the seams. Many of us have heard stories about gods descending from the heavens and about monsters that kept entire nations in fear at the dawn of civilization. We were told in schools and universities that these are just metaphors created to explain natural phenomena or to strengthen the moral foundations of ancient society. But what if the physical evidence of the existence of these creatures lies right under our feet, waiting for its hour in the dark corridors of forgotten museums? Imagine that very moment when a researcher's shovel hits a bone that, according to all laws of official biology, simply should not exist. We begin our immersion into the forbidden chapters of history where the boundaries between myth and reality are blurred, finally and irrevocably. Let us begin our investigation with the most large-scale and simultaneously the most hidden phenomenon in the history of world archaeology. Across the entire globe, from the arid deserts of the Middle East to the green hills of North America, mentions of a race of giants have been preserved. The Old Testament calls them Nephilim, the Greeks sang of Titans, and the Navajo Indians kept legends of fierce, red-haired giants who devoured people. You might think that this is just a figment of the imagination of frightened nomads, but records from the 19th and early 20th century say otherwise. In the newspapers of that time, reports regularly appeared about the discovery of human skeletons whose height reached 3 or even 4 meters. In the state of Ohio, during excavations of ancient mounds, the remains of creatures with a double row of teeth and massive jaws were found, which significantly exceeded modern human counterparts in size. The strangest thing is that all these finds disappeared without a trace immediately after they fell into the hands of representatives of the Smithsonian Institution. Official science calls this a hoax, but the number of testimonies from respected doctors and engineers of that time makes us doubt this convenient version. If giants really existed and built megalithic structures that we cannot repeat today, then our entire chronology of human development turns out to be false. Moving from land giants to heavenly rulers, we inevitably encounter the image of the dragon, which is present in the culture of every nation.
Chinese emperors considered themselves descendants of dragons. European knights fought them in their sagas, and the Maya worshipped the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl. How could peoples separated by thousands of kilometers of ocean and having no connection come up with the same creature with such striking accuracy in details? Biologists laughed at this idea for a long time until paleontologists began to find the remains of creatures that suspiciously resemble legendary monsters. In the Gobi Desert, fossils of protoceratops were discovered, whose powerful beaks and bony collars could have served as the basis for myths about griffins guarding gold. But even more shocking was the find in Romania, where archaeologists discovered the bones of a pterosaur with a wingspan of more than 10 meters. This creature was the size of a small airplane and possessed incredible power, capable of instilling terror in any ancient hunter. We must ask ourselves whether our tales of dragons are a genetic memory of the last representatives of ancient lizards that lived until the time of the appearance of the first human settlements. When we go deeper into the study of ancient texts, we often come across descriptions of hybrid creatures, such as chimeras or minotaurs. Modern man perceives this as a product of the vivid imagination of ancient authors, but finds in the caves of the Mediterranean force us to reconsider this point of view. In some ancient burials, researchers discovered bones that at first glance seemed like a messy pile of remains of humans and animals. However, detailed anatomical analysis sometimes revealed strange fusions that cannot be explained by a simple ritual burial. There are theories suggesting that ancient civilizations possessed knowledge in the field of genetics that we are only now beginning to comprehend with the help of genome editing technologies. If Atlanteans or other disappeared cultures conducted experiments on crossing species, then the legends of centaurs and satyrs take on a completely different, frightening meaning. This is not just fiction, but echoes of biological manipulations that led to the creation of creatures that do not fit into the natural order of things. We are afraid to admit that our ancestors could have been much more advanced in scientific terms than we are used to thinking. Special attention should be paid to finds that link mythology with real biological anomalies discovered in our time. In the mountains of Peru, elongated skulls were found, which for a long time were considered the result of artificial deformation using tight bandages. However, DNA analysis of some of these samples showed the presence of genetic markers that are not found in any known subspecies of Homo sapiens. The brain volume of these creatures was 25% larger than ours, and their eye sockets had a completely different structure. Local legends call them star people who descended from the heavens and ruled the Andean peoples long before the Incas.
This is direct proof that the creatures we considered gods or mythical heroes had a completely real physical form. The scientific community prefers to ignore these data because they destroy the established theory of Darwin and force us to look for the origins of humanity outside our planet. We are faced with an organized conspiracy of silence, the purpose of which is to maintain control over the generally accepted version of history. Remember the famous Sphinx on the Giza Plateau, whose lion body and human head have stirred the minds of researchers for centuries? Geological studies show that there are traces of water erosion on the body of the Sphinx, which could only have occurred during a period of heavy rains thousands of years ago. This pushes the date of the monument's construction back into deep antiquity, when, according to the official version, people still lived in caves and did not have tools for processing stone. If the architecture of that time reflected real creatures, then the Sphinx could have been a monument to a really existing species, or the result of ancient creation. In Indian temples, we see images of Nagas, half humans and half snakes, whose statues are made with incredible anatomical precision. In the jungles of Cambodia, images of stegosaurs are carved on the walls of ancient temples, although these lizards died out millions of years ago, according to modern scientists. How could the ancient Chimeras know about the appearance of a dinosaur if they did not conduct professional paleontological excavations? The answer suggests itself. They saw these creatures with their own eyes, or received this knowledge from those who lived side by side with them. We must understand that every myth is just a truth distorted by time, waiting for its researcher. When we find huge skeletons in the caves of the Caucasus or strange mummies in the deserts of China, we are faced with a reality that does not want to be recognized. Those in power have always sought to control the past in order to manage the future, and hiding the truth about mythical creatures is part of the strategy. We are told that we are the pinnacle of evolution, but the finds of the past testify that before us on this planet, there existed creatures much more powerful and strange. We are on the threshold of a great discovery when the number of accumulated anomalies will outweigh the scales of official dogmatics. Each of us can become a witness to how the walls of lies built around our true history crumble. Myths are not born out of nowhere. They are a reflection of that world that we lost and which is now trying to return to us through archaeological finds. Concluding our journey through the hidden pages of the past, we realize that reality is much more complex and mysterious than any fantasy novels. The bones of giants, traces of dragons, and genetic riddles of ancient hybrids are only the tip of the iceberg hidden under the thickness of official science. We should not blindly believe everything written in textbooks because the truth always requires a personal search and intellectual courage. Mythical creatures of antiquity never left us completely. They remained in stone, in bones, and in our blood.